We all remember the Cuban Missile Crisis as the moment when the world was on the brink of World War III. While many see it as a big scare, the reality is that this event had decisive consequences that still impact international relations today. How did the Cuban Missile Crisis change the course of history? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. As always, let's go back to the background, and for that it is necessary to talk about the context of the Cold War. This was an ideological, political, economic, social, and military conflict that between 1945 and 1991 confronted the two great superpowers, the Soviet Union, defender of communism, and the United States, defender of capitalism. In its early years, Fulgencio Batista's Cuba was so aligned with Washington that it was known as the United States Casino. A decisive moment in the history of Cuba and, as we will see in this video, also in world history, was the Cuban Revolution. This event, which we saw in more detail in this video, radically transformed the Cuban government, leading it towards Castro's socialism, a system we knew well as it remains in force to this day. Cuba became one of the closest allies of the Soviet Union, to the point of sending troops to places as far away as Angola or Yemen to support the communist cause. However, what interests us at this moment is the installation of Soviet medium-range ballistic missiles, the R-12 and R-13, on the island. The former had a range of 2,000 kilometers capable of reaching the capital, Washington, District of Columbia. The R-14, on the other hand, could reach almost all of the continental territory of the United States, including key cities like New York. On October 14, 1962, Soviet missiles were discovered in Cuba, marking the beginning of the famous missile crisis, which unleashed an unprecedented escalation of tensions between the two superpowers. 2 days later, President Kennedy convened the National Security Council to assess the situation and discuss possible responses. On October 22nd, Kennedy informed the world about the presence of these missiles and announced a naval blockade around Cuba to prevent the arrival of more Soviet weaponry, a measure that became effective 2 days later. On the 25th, a tense encounter occurs between a Soviet submarine and an American ship in the Atlantic. That same day, the United States ambassador to the UN presents photographic evidence of the Soviet missiles to the Security Council. The next day, negotiations begin, and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev promises to withdraw the missiles if Washington commits not to invade Cuba. However, the next day, tensions reach their peak when a U-2 American surveillance plane is shot down over Cuba, resulting in the death of its pilot. In addition, a new message arrives from Khrushchev demanding the withdrawal of American missiles from Italy and Turkey, a country then bordering the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, in exchange for withdrawing the missiles from Cuba. Kennedy then decides to negotiate privately, and a conclusion is reached on the 28th of October. In order for the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics to withdraw the missiles from Cuba, the United States commits to not invade the island and to secretly withdraw the missiles from Turkey and Italy. In addition, a direct line of communication is established between the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and the United States, known as the Red Phone, which demonstrated the willingness of both parties to prioritize diplomacy and avoid future conflicts. Now, as we promised, and to show you that this is not clickbait, we are going to analyze how the missile crisis caused significant changes in the globalized world we live in today. We will start with the first point, the change in the security policy of the major powers. The United States reinforced its containment policy, aimed at preventing the spread of communism worldwide. This led to subsequent interventions, such as those in Vietnam and Grenada. The legacy of this event is reflected in the expansion of North Atlantic Treaty Organization and in the formation of alliances such as Australia, United Kingdom, United States, and quadrilateral security dialogue. After all, it's better to have them on our side, right? Another concept that intensified was the doctrine of mutual assured destruction. Both superpowers were on the brink of a nuclear war, and the consequences of such a conflict would have resulted in the total destruction of both nations and a nuclear winter from which no one would have emerged unscathed. Paradoxically, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction helped maintain peace by establishing a balance of terror. Additionally, this crisis reinforced the security dilemma, a key concept in international relations during the Cold War. This concept refers to the idea that if a nation becomes too powerful, capable of installing medium-range missiles near your borders, it can be perceived as a provocation. Putin expressed a similar concern regarding North Atlantic Treaty Organization's expansion, which led to the invasion of Ukraine. In response, Europe has begun to rearm. Finally, there was also an evolution in military doctrine with a focus on developing second alert systems to face potential threats. A prominent example of this is Israel, which has developed the detection and alert radars that are part of its famous Iron Dome. As you can see, the Cuban Missile Crisis was not only a crucial event in contemporary history, but its repercussions have left a lasting mark on international relations evidenced in current conflicts. The most interesting thing is that even today, that United States alliance still has relevance. Do you think a similar crisis could arise in the medium term? You're welcome. Until next time.